Welcome everyone. So this is the introduction chapter on how to create a awesome flamethrower effect. So I have a few props here. I have a gun, I have a box, I have a ground plane, and normally this is how I work. When I create an effect, I normally just have stand-ins, a few props, a few low proxy objects, nothing too heavy, until I'm happy with a final simulation. Then I'll go in and replace those props with my final objects. But for this lesson, we'll just use this cube, this ground plane that you see here. Let me scroll into the gun. I have a gun OBJ model here that's going to be used as a prop. It's going to be firing our flames into the box there, and that's all you need. It's just a simple setup, nothing too complicated. And once you get a good understanding and you're comfortable with creating this effect, then you can go in and propagate that into a more advanced and complicated scene. So here's some reference that I pulled up, some reference footage that I screen captured off YouTube. And granted, it's 2010. You see these two mischievous kids here. I'm sure they have every game system known to man. I'm sure they have an Xbox, a GameCube, a Wii, a PlayStation 3. But in addition, these kids have a homemade flamethrower that they're playing with in their backyard. It looks pretty safe to me. But to get back to the lesson, basically what I like to do with reference like this, and I thought this was a great reference that I found, is I look for frames where I think that it's going to be extremely helpful for me when I'm trying to execute in Maya. So I'm scrubbing through right now. I'm just looking for different attributes, different things that I'm noticing. I'm noticing areas that are extremely hot, areas that are warm. I'm looking at the texture. You know, how dense is it? How fast is it moving? Should I be using a lot of damping? Should I have a very high viscosity setting? Set in my grid. So this is the type of simulation that you have to pay close attention to regarding the details, because for you to achieve an effect like this, it's going to take a lot of tweaking and playing around with different parameters. So here's the pure render, just the sequence I have that I loaded up in my frame cycler. If you guys have FCheck, or if you guys have After Effects or Nuke, you guys can just render out a sequence or QuickTime and then compare it to your reference and just look for things, like look for tendencies, look for similar attributes. Do you have any problematic areas? Are there areas of your fire that may have problems that you're not happy with? Is my transparency settings pretty accurate? Do I need to adjust my opacity graph? And what I'm doing right now is I'm doubling my frame rate to 48, because I'm just curious to see that if I were to simulate my fire at this speed, how will it behave? How will it look? So let me just turn that back down to 24 to our original settings. And I'm just continuing to look at my reference, playing it through, taking a look at the speed, and once I decide, once you get to a point where you're pretty comfortable and you're happy, then it's just a matter of going in and trying to execute this effect as best as possible. So this is the final render. Let me just move this down to the right and expand this so you can see this better. But the first thing you'll notice is that we have motion blur. Compared to the previous sequence that I showed you in the frame cycler, it didn't have any motion blur. But I mean, that's the only thing that it's missing. But other than that, it's basically identical. So we have motion blur. I did color correct it to try to match the values that we see here in the reference. The most important things that I were looking for were areas that were very hot and areas that were quite cooler, and also right here I'm pointing out the thin tendrils that you see compared to what we have in our reference. Those were the actual attributes and characteristics that I was trying to match as best as I can. So let me just move forward to a better frame, and now we're looking at it from a different angle. Look at all that detail we see in the core of our flame. and that's acceptable and very achievable in Maya. That can be done quite easily. All I would have to do is actually activate my texture incandescence option box under the texture section. In addition, I could also add more resolution. So right now this is a resolution of 200. I could also just double this, or maybe just give it a resolution of 300, and then we would start to see all that internal detail similar to what we have in our reference. But it's not bad though. What we have right now, I'm pretty happy with. I'm pretty comfortable with it for this lesson. And you guys have the scene file. You guys can tweak this, take this further, add more resolution if your machine permits, and you can really make a believable and wonderful looking flamethrower effect. So I'm glad you guys are here, and this was the introduction chapter. So we'll get ready to start chapter 1.